Welcome to this week's episode of Humans in 5.
For the next few weeks, we're sharing segments inspired by our recent trip to New Orleans. Now, first and foremost, this city is amazing. There are so many sights to see and foods to eat, we highly recommend a visit.
And we were doubly lucky in that we managed to book and rent a beautiful apartment. And best of all, we have a rooftop pool.
Now, fortunately, we're both good swimmers. We're not heading to the Olympics anytime soon, but having grown up in Canada and Australia, we learned to swim and have fun in the water. A lot of people who grow up swimming, though, take this skill for granted, as there are many people out there who don't know how to swim.
There's a lot of political and social issues that prevent those who might want to frolic in the water from learning to swim, especially in the southern United States. For example, twice as many white Americans can swim relative to black Americans. These numbers can be traced back to the dark days of segregation.
In the US, swimming as a recreational activity had a huge surge in popularity in the 20s and 30s. This was associated with a large increase in the number of public swimming pools that opened up around this time. While these pools were free to use, they were segregated, and only whites were allowed to access the cool and refreshing waters.
However, in the 1950s and 1960s, as many public spaces became desegregated, white public officials weren't sure what to do about pools. They couldn't make them for whites only anymore, but they sure didn't want black and white citizens sharing the pools. In keeping with the attitudes of the day, officials worried that black citizens were riddled with communicable diseases and would poison the water.
They were also worried about letting black men access pools where there would be scantily clad white women. This played into their belief in the narrative that dangerous, hypersexual black males would prey upon vulnerable white women who needed protecting. Black men would be lynched or hung by local white gangs for even interacting with white women socially, so pools were out of the question.
So how did white officials solve the problem of wanting to create pools, but also wanting to make sure black people couldn't get anywhere near them? Well, local communities created private swimming clubs and private pools that had strict membership procedures and steep fees to prevent black people from ever joining. White families started to increasingly add pools to their backyards so that the kids could enjoy a swim without families having to worry about their kids interacting with others. Essentially, the public segregation of previous years didn't disappear, but moved into the private sphere.
With all these changes, what happened to the public pools that were already around the country? In the North, these pools largely fell into disrepair as white families ceased to use or support them. In the South, things were a bit more aggressive. Pools would be filled with dirt or cement or were bulldozed, meaning that no one could access them.
Today, many people notice that there are fewer black swimmers, but aren't sure why. Sometimes people think that black people can't swim or just don't want to. Instead, many black families still feel the long reach of segregation. As they were cut out from accessing pools, swimming just wasn't something families did. Many parents don't know how to swim, so they can't teach their children or sometimes can't even find a pool in their community to use where lessons are available.
So the next time you go for a refreshing dive, maybe take a moment to think about how and why you can swim. We're certainly grateful for our swimming skills, and we can't wait to share more New Orleans-inspired tales with you in the coming weeks on Humans in 5.